So if I remember right, I think the boundary is, well, most of it's waterlocked. So the top of it and then down to San Jose, I think that's part of where the boundary is. And then it goes all the way out to Brentwood. And then also out to, I think, Union City is one of the furthest points, Castro Valley. There's a temple in the mission. It's in Oakland. It's beautiful. It's actually a really small mission. I think the furthest point from the mission home was about an hour. I think it was an hour in every direction, just about, which I thought was really big, but apparently there are missions that go like across states. So I know I was surprised when I heard about that. But it's a really close-knit mission considering how close all of us are. There's still probably like, I think our mission president was saying like 400 missionaries. 200. 200. And we had visitor center sisters there too, which he said put our numbers at probably like half sisters, half elders, actually, which is surprising for a mission to have almost a proportionate amount of elders to sisters, and that's just because we have a visitor center. So there were 9 missions, or 9 languages. So we had English, Spanish, Cantonese, Mandarin, Cambodian, Laotian, Tagalog, Fijian, and Tongan. And I feel like there's one more, but I always forget that one. But it's a really, really diverse mission, just considering all the people that live in the Bay Area. And so there's a lot of different languages. Like I was called English speaking, but I still used my Chinese all the time. And so it's really good. For the most part, the church is actually really, really big in California. We had, like, I was surprised. My wards back home in Philadelphia are actually a lot bigger. There were some wards that like maybe it was like a 10-minute drive or even less in some of my areas. But out in Philadelphia where I'm from, like the ward boundaries are probably like, you could be like an hour away from someone that you visit taught. So I'd say it was relatively, I mean, obviously it wasn't that big, but it's still pretty well known. People know about it. Well, people were like the part that I love the most, but also the part that I hate the most about the mission. I think it's crazy how quickly you grow to love people. I think there's like a part of it that really is divine. Like you can't love a person that much, especially companions. I think companions were one of the biggest things on the mission. But specifically the people of California, I mean, I think they're all very nice. I guess for myself, I feel like most people have good intentions. And so it's not a super big deal to me when they slam the door, which happened a lot, actually. Honestly, there was enough rejection to last my lifetime. But I really appreciated that people were very open. If they had concerns, they'd tell us. If we were knocking on their door, they'd tell us why they didn't want to listen, or they'd tell us why they did. And it was really good for me to sort of learn how to deal with all these different people, not because they had necessarily different opinions than us, because a lot of them are very similar. A lot of them are very strong Christians, or they claim to be. But they would, I don't know, they just kind of like opened another section of my mind for like learning how to handle people, like regardless of what they said to me or what they did to me. Not necessarily did anything to me, but I mean, I guess it wasn't super different. I think people are probably a lot more liberal out there, a little bit more outspoken, just because on the East Coast we're kind of like, we don't really take time to talk to people, honestly. Not because we don't like people, but just because we're busy. And so I think it's a little more laid back in California where, you know, people will take the time to talk to you. You know, they'll have full out conversations with you about whatever it is that's on their mind. And a lot of times it's just up to you to listen to see if there's anything that you can relate with them or, you know, help them out at all. I remember one time we were like out sitting in a park, and this lady from Poland just like started like crying on us. Basically, she was just telling us all about like all these things happening in her life, and unfortunately she didn't want to change anything about it, because we did talk to her about that. We're like, you know, you come to church, you could change, there things could be different, you know, your life could be better if you wanted it to, you know, there are some things that you could do. But she just felt content with where she was, even though she was so upset. It wasn't enough to change her. And so, you know, we would just go and visit her time to time, bring her some snacks, because we carried a lot of food on us just because we served in a kind of a poor area at one point. And so we would just carry around, like, we had a bunch of like bagels and cookies and biscuits in our car, just like in case we ever ran into any homeless people. And it was interesting because sometimes people would be like, no, I don't want that. And I'd be like, you're homeless. Why are you rejecting our food? And I mean, it's their call, you know. They did whatever they wanted to, and if they didn't want to help themselves, then that's beyond my control. So it was 4 different areas around the mountain. And like I remember in my first area, I remember like covering part of the mountain, and I was like, huh, I wonder what's on the other, who covers the other side of the mountain. And then like a year later, I ended up on the other side of the mountain. And so there are a lot more different parts to it. And at one point I covered 2 wards too. And so that was something in and of itself that was very interesting. But yeah, basically just the whole mountain, honestly. One time it caught on fire. That was cool. Actually, it caught on fire a couple times. And I remember like people like having to get evacuated and things like that, and like seeing the smoke burning. Not that I was anywhere close enough to actually like say that I was part of it, but I could see it from my apartment window. It doesn't catch on fire very often, but because of the drought and everything like that, it was prone to fire. I do remember one time though, because the drought was really bad. I don't know if it's necessarily gotten better since I left, but I remember one time President Monson called for like a statewide fast, and like all of us did it, and it rained the Sunday that we fasted. So it was really cool. It was a very immediate response to prayer, and so I thought that was really neat.